about it for a sec.
Oh, welcome and good evening tonight. It is another edition of the Believe in Monsters podcast. Got a big crew ready to hang out and talk some Chicago Bears. Myself, Joe Gaither, Chris Krogman, and Lucas Berry, of course. And we got a special guest into the house tonight. So we're really excited for everybody joining us on tonight's episode. We're going to talk about offensive line play. We're going to talk about rookie minicamp. We're going to talk about a story in the Players Tribune as well. So lots of big Bears talk on tap tonight. Thank y'all so much for joining us and being a part of the show. We are live on Believe in Monsters on Twitter, BIM_Monsters on Twitter. We're live on Facebook as well and on YouTube. So go ahead and give us a like, a share, a follow. Tell your friends about us. If you like the Bears, go rub it in all your Packers fans' faces. We're doing some fun over here. And we appreciate y'all hanging out and joining us. Of course, we are a part of the Believe Network, and we want to say thank you, of course, to the Believe Network for getting us hooked in and accepting us as a member of the family. It's been a lot of fun so far, and we look forward to kind of seeing what the future has for us. Before we welcome in our special guest, we've got our offensive line expert tonight. So I'm excited to hear about what his opinions were of the Chicago Bears draft, because that was a lot of the area that Ryan Poles kind of addressed in the draft. We'll get great opinions from Michael Gus on the offensive line. But Chris Krogman, it's been a week, man. I missed you. How are you feeling? How was your week? Did you celebrate Big Mother's Day for Mama Krogman and the boys?
Definitely doing really good today. Mr. Gaithers, thank you so much for the warm introduction, and we are super excited to be part of the Believe Network. Got going over there, officially launched, first podcast up and posted for them. Followed the Believe Network at Believe, BLEAV Network. Mother's Day was good. Got the wife a hour-long massage, so she's looking forward to settling in for that, getting away from her crazy children for an hour. Boys made her a couple nice, artistic cards, make your mom a card and whatnot. But yeah, it was good. Excited to talk Bears draft. Excited to talk to Michael again. Lucas, my main man, your Sixers are not looking good tonight, but that's okay. We're talking Bears. So how are you tonight, friend?
Yeah, besides that game, it's going pretty well. I'm excited to talk more about the Bears draft, dive into it. It's great. It seems like football season never ends. I mean, now we have the schedule release coming up to look forward to. That'll be on Thursday. So get to see who the Bears are playing. But I'm really curious to talk to Michael here and excited to hear what he has to say about the 4 new linemen we drafted on day 3 and who possibly has potential to be playing for the Bears at all or just even dressing this year. So, Michael, welcome to the show, man. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to be back, man. Thanks to all you guys for having me back.
100%. Where I'm sure you have input on, the other draft picks as well, not just the offensive linemen, since you are a football guy in general. And if you do follow the NFL schedule release or schedule leak Twitter account, looks like the Bears could be playing the Lions week 1. So that could be a fun and interesting way to get the season.
Really good news.
Get the season going.
Wasn't there an account of isn't there an account every year that does that to get followers, and then they're like, "Oh, we just made this up"? I swear that happened last year. We're like, all these schedules.
I think there is one that's well, obviously there's fake accounts for everything, right? But I think this one's been pretty legit last couple of years. But
I'm fine with that.
Who knows?
I'd love to start with the Lions.
Lions fans are already talking smack. They said they want the Bears week 1.
Yeah,
they'll be available. I love that. That'd be a great time to get them.
I couldn't think of anyone else I'd rather play week 1. A brand new offense with a second. Yeah, that's a get right game. That's like college when you schedule Southern.
Michael, why don't you, before we kind of take a deep dive into the day 3 offensive linemen, why don't you give us your take on the first 3 rounds of the draft? The defensive backs that they took, the wide receiver out of Tennessee, Velus Jones. Give us your general take on, day 1 or day 2 for the Bears and just the overall draft.
Yeah. So, and honestly, the first 2 picks being 2 defensive backs, I don't have a problem with it. We're going to take Poles at his word, and I think that it probably was a value pick by a considerable margin. Just being plugged into the scouting process leading up to the draft, I'm not sure that I would argue that anybody else left on the board was maybe even close to those two at the time. I saw pretty consistent first round grades on those. Take them if we're taking them at face value and that those were just two, hey, these guys are, a tier above what's left and we're going to take them regardless of position, fine. If you get two productive day one starters, and that's going to remain to be seen. You get two productive day one starters, I've got no problem with that. As much as I would like offensive help, if you turn 2 second-round picks into guys that contribute all year, long-term pieces, fine. I'm fine with that. Now, moving into the third round, Bayless Jones Jr., it's baffling. It really is. So I've talked quite a bit about this, on Twitter. We've been back and forth. I find it interesting that you would fill that role or, take a swing at that role, given their roster where they did. And that's not to say he's a bad player, bad pick. Nobody knows. Just looking at it from a role standpoint, it's someone I've talked about that you probably need to manufacture touches for. And when you say that, you think screens, RPOs, manufactured touches is it largely, at least in the reference that I've heard it used. That's going to refer to you're not working him into a passing concept as much as you're saying, we're going to set this up. We like this look. And if everything goes right, be it an RPO, a screen, a jet sweep, whatever the case might be, we're going to get him the ball uncontested. We're not asking him to run a route and beat a guy. Remains to be seen, what he can turn into. I see the physical desires for him. I'm just not sure, given the fact that, one might argue that Darnell Mooney is really the only 3-down XYZ, whatever, tag you want to put on that receiver on the roster. It seems like you're taking and gadget's the wrong word. Like a joker role, a very specific role, very specific sets. Curious that you would do that there, given the other needs. That feels like something that, the Pittsburgh Steelers, would typically do as they're polishing off a roster, not, a roster complete rebuild, but we'll see.
The word Getsy used was versatile, and that seems to be a word that he repeated a lot in his press conference during rookie minicamp, as they were looking for versatile guys that could do a lot of different things. So like when you talk about, kind of manufacturing touches for him, are those more of like your me routes or your like specifically designed plays for this guy, rather than he just fits in, you get him the ball if he's open kind of thing, and specifically designed plays for him? Or is he just like kind of walk me through like how a play gets designed for a guy?
That's a really good question, and I don't mean to use it in a derogatory way, because there's a lot to like about him. Definitely he's got a pretty stout frame. For everyone thinks of the speed guy. He can run through some contact. He's got some.
He's built like a running back.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This isn't like a converted scat back from college. Very far from it.
Yeah.
But to your specific question, that's a great one. When you say manufactured touches, so the role that I've heard it referred to as, so I don't know if this is gonna, anyone listening, it might, raise some alarm bells or. But Joker or Jack is the two designations that I've heard it referred to as. And usually, so that's a player. It's pretty specific sets. Usually number 2, 3x1, I usually see it as. But slot receiver that's going to work into screens, RPOs. And it's not, it's different than a gadget in the sense that, like you see a lot in college. The guy comes in for one touch. It's a jet sweep. We're giving him the ball no matter what. But I would say that Joker Jack, the role that I think he's going to play in, he could always surprise us, and who knows? I'm not going to write him off in that sense. But you're going to put him in specific sets, probably one that you like to run out of. Then you're going to run the RPO, and if you get the look you like, he's wide open on that little glance that we've seen Getsy run a ton, where they'll run inside outside zone, doesn't matter, away from him when he's in the slot. And if that linebacker, Nick, whoever that head up defender is, plays the run, they're not going to block him. Well, now you get him the ball right away and he's one-on-one with the safety, or depending on the alignment. Same thing with a jet sweep. A lot of pre-snap alerts, and RPO is a catch-all term. But I would expect, and I think that he can really excel in, again, you put him in those specific sets, probably ones that you really like to run out of, in that slot, in that number 2 role. And then, a lot of times you'll have some sort of pre-snap, be it, call it alert, hot, whatever, where, hey, if they're aligned a certain way, usually if, maybe they're showing like too high, and instead of a nickel corner, they've got a linebacker, that's not head up over them. Hey, we're just going to throw it right away. We got 2-on-1. We're going to say a word, whatever that word is, and we're going to throw it to them. Tie that into there's a lot that I think Getsy's going to kind of work that in, because it makes the defense, it kind of dictates to the defense when he's on the field, hey, we can only align a certain way. Maybe the defense decides, hey, if we can't play this alignment, we don't want to play this coverage. And if Getsy's, good, then that's going to open up the doors. So, I don't dislike the player. It's curious because I don't think this is going to be a feature in the offense unless he surprises us and does, a lot of different things.
Maybe he doesn't do that his rookie year, but he is, 25 in a couple of days. So hopefully he is, ready to go sooner rather than later. Getsy also mentioned his professionalism, showed up in a suit to rookie minicamp, showed up with his own whiteboard ready to work. So more positives out of Velas Jones Jr. I am a very, glass half full kind of guy when guys come out. I used to be we could have got that dude in the 5th, 6th round, shit a brick about Adam Shaheen, blah, blah, blah. But whatever. If it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It doesn't matter if you drafted him in the 3rd or the 5th or the 6th or whatever.
Chris, what are we insinuating, or what are we basically extrapolating from Velas Jones taking his own whiteboard to rookie minicamp?
He likes to drop his own plays. He's like, get me the ball right here, and then I'm going to be gone. But like you said, Michael, with the quick slants that Getsy likes to run, in the few highlights I saw of Jones, it looks like he hit that slant pretty hard and can split a defense rather quickly, break a few arm tackles here and there. So exciting to see how they do use him.
Yeah, I'm excited too. And one more thing that I should have mentioned that I'll add. So that role, again, call it the Joker, the Jack, whatever. I'm sure there's 100 different names for what we've all described, what he's probably going to do. I like to kind of describe that as that's going to be a mirror of the offense. So if this offense is fundamentally sound, we can actually run inside outside zone, unlike under Matt Nagy, and we can do it effectively. And we have something other than stick spacing that maybe if we're feeling crazy, right, we'll do some sort of play action that doesn't have a shot attached. A legitimate play action, not show a play flag, block 7, and either throw the ball out of bounds or hopefully get Mooney up the seams. If we can do all those fundamentals correctly, that's where Velas is going to have a huge role, because you're preoccupied with inside zone. Here comes that linebacker. Now, Field sees it, hits him. And like you said, now that's a problem. Now he has the ball. We've all seen what he can do in the open field. Now he's one-on-one with the safety before the defense even knows what happened. That's, the design of the play. Or, hey, we're getting beat off on mesh. A lot of people have done a really good job recently on these mesh concepts. Hey, we're getting beat up on mesh, so we're going to line a little bit differently. And, now they're taking the snap, throwing them the ball, and we're 2-on-1 on the out. And again, we're setting, we've got a 2-on-1 on the outside where he's really dangerous. That's assuming we do all the other things correctly. Now,
right.
Jones under Matt Nagy would have been a gimmick, because if you don't have
Cordell Patterson
potatoes, that's not going to work. That is a gimmick at that point. That's give him the ball on a jet sweep because we can't do anything else right, and just hope something cool happens.
So would you say that part of Velas Jones' key to kind of seeing the field early and often is probably going to be him blocking his tail off, so that way he can stay on the field on those running downs and they can disguise it a lot better because like if he's killing it blocking from the slot or whatever, they're not going to have to move him in and out of the field just for his formation. They can leave him out there on those zone plays and cause that much more confusion for the defense. So would you kind of agree that his blocking ability really will determine how much playing time we see this year?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, it's a staple for this type of offense. Really, all these receivers are going to have to block a lot. And I know Pringle's actually really good at it, but
yeah, he's gonna have to do all the little things. He's gonna have to, block when they want him to block. And the thing with his speed too is, which kind of gets overlooked. He's gonna have to really sell those runoffs too. If we need. If we want that safety getting wide, we want him way out of the box. Well, he needs to really sell that runoff, like all younger players that are trying to get on the field. But that's a great point. Is that you're right. I mean, if he can't block, if we're putting him out there, and he's only able to play 10-15% of the snaps because and even we've seen some other guys under some less talented coordinators named Matt Nagy. Where you put him out there and you know exactly what's coming. Yeah, that's going to be a problem. He's got to fit in, even if it's a condensed version, depending. I expect him to be in some very specific sets. He's still got to, you still can't have the playbook limited because he can only do X, Y, and Z. And I don't think that's a problem. It's something I've looked at. I think he's a willing blocker and he's a lot bigger than people think. They see 4.3 and they just assume the guy's 170 pounds, and that's just not the case.
Yeah, he's thick. He's thick in the lower half where you need to be in the game of football, and having that much speed and that much lower body power.
It will have turned 25 by the time our podcast releases. His birthday is tomorrow, Wednesday.
Well, happy birthday, Mr. Jones. For all the Twitter GMs, didn't give us guys that have, not enough SEC Tennessee watching time on their hands, or, going all the way back to Sam Darnold and USC hooking up with Velus Jones. Didn't give the best impression of Jones, but I'm excited to see what they do with him. I'm really excited for Getsy. I think, kind of some of the beat writers have talked about it, and fans are talking about it, and like maybe they're more comfortable with the progression of Justin Fields, the progression of the offense, with just the changing of the guard in the offensive room, whether that's head coach, offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, offensive line coach. I don't know if we had a chance to talk Chris Morgan last time. I want to get I have some questions about just like offensive line coaching, since we do have 4 day 3 guys, and what that looks like. But they seem to be comfortable with, just bringing Getsy in being enough to like upgrade the offense significantly. Do you think that that's kind of the reading between the tea leaves, Michael, with the, what the Bears are thinking? Or do you think we're stuck and we should have got, another offensive weapon or 3?
I think primarily, and again, we're just going to assume baseline competency from Getsy, because I don't think that's an unrealistic expectation at all. He probably far exceeds that from what I've seen. Mm-hmm. But even if you got replacement level, a term that that's such a massive upgrade from Matt Nagy. That yes, I think it's going to be very difficult, frankly, to not be a massive positive if you're Luke Getsy. I mean, I do it. I know everyone's smiling, but I mean that in a serious way. I don't think you can't do any worse. I really don't believe that.
Well, offensively, you're going to have a plan. You're going to have a continuous plan. We're going to run this concept feeds to that concept, and we've got more options than, as you said earlier, just your sticks route. God damn.
Well, you can already see it. There's a team concept. There's an identity already forming, as opposed to this, we're still kind of figuring out who we are. This is offense 101, 102, 202, blah, blah, blah. Dude, bro. Professor Nagy, you ain't it. Like, Joe and I both, I think, rooted for Nagy for quite some time. We go back to, the fun trick plays and the Santa Clauses and all that, or Santa sleigh, Santa Claus, whatever. And yeah, so it clearly wasn't working. So I agree. It's going to be hard to not be an upgrade over Nagy's offense. So, but I think, I talked about it, when we were going through the coaching search, that this is the kind of offense that I think fits not only the talent that was on the team, but also just Chicago in general. So looking forward to seeing it. Can't wait. Lucas, you guys want to get into day 3 and these hogs up front?
First off, I got a quick question. Michael, which one is the smelliest, meanest, nastiest lineman that we drafted?
Thomas. That's I got
Kramer, dude.
I got a pretty similar in that department grades on, I think, Thomas and even Kramer. Watching, and we'll get into it. It's very interesting to see the development in Kramer, just the attitude. From last year to this year, or I guess 2 years to the 2020 to this year. It's something I did a thread on him last week, and it was something pretty cool to see because there was a noticeable difference. I think the edge would go to Thomas in that regard if we're talking nasty, smelly liability to earn 15, not get 15, because there's a huge difference, like we always used to say. But yeah, I think Thomas would edge him out, but the trajectory Kramer's on, I wouldn't be surprised if he, he's definitely a number 1 contender. That's for sure.
Yeah, I don't know about these 2 FCS guys though. To be honest with you, I'm not all that impressed.
Wait, like Braxton Jones from Southern?
Yeah, so like Braxton Jones, everyone was hyping him up, and then I finally got to watching him this week, and just I was left totally unimpressed. And just reading Dane Brugler's Beast, where he's like, oh, he has a potential left tackle, a potential future as a starting left tackle. I was just kind of like, ugh, I don't see it at all.
Yeah, no, I think to me, just to jump in here real quick, I think on the surface, Jones and Carter are probably long-term physical upside flyers.
Yeah.
You see it flash, but which is cool. Fine. If we're breaking down a 15-second highlight film, then they're definitely going to the Pro Bowl this year. Because they do flash. I mean, you see the physicality come out, but they also flash for all the wrong reasons sometimes too. And again, that's a big jump to the NFL. Especially any jump. It's a big jump from Alabama to the NFL, but as you move down, maybe you haven't seen an NFL caliber edge rusher, from where they came. That makes the jump even bigger. So yeah, I think those 2 are probably, at least to me, those 2 are, guys that you really like the physical upside. I'm sure they like the person, they wouldn't have drafted him otherwise. And they think, hey, stash him on the practice squad, bounce him in and out of the 53, kind of depending on the week and health. Get them in a NFL weight room with an NFL nutritionist and, all those other things for a year. And let's see what we got next year.
So, kind of speaking to what Lucas alluded to with Brugler's Beast reports, and then kind of going back to what I was talking about with coaching and stuff like that. So, and like you just alluded to it a little bit with NFL nutrition. So, like, what is NFL coaching going to do for him? I mean, his good, traits are, his balance and foot quickness, being, a decent run blocker right now. His bad habits are, stomping his feet, letting his pads rise. We saw some tape of that, I think even at the Senior Bowl, if I remember correctly, 4 offensive linemen in the second round. I can't remember who was where, or third day, whatever, lowering his eyes. So, like, how does a Chris Morgan kind of coach that up, fix those problems, and get the most out of Braxton Jones?
I think the first thing is having all of, both of those guys, all of them, but, Braxton Jones, especially, right, is going to coming now he's in the NFL. He's in the Chicago Bears. He's got a lot more resources. All of these guys do, but this is, again, an extreme example, a big jump up. All these resources at their disposal that they probably didn't have in college, just giving budget issues, or I shouldn't say issues, restrictions. But how that helps them, it just, number one's the speed, right? The equation that I've heard and I've always liked to use, it's like driving, you learn to drive, originally call it a high school player on a side street. Those colleges are, you're on a little state highway, and now, you're on the Autobahn. That's how fast things are happening. These edge rushers are on top of you, turning your shoulders and turning the corner before, the guys in college were out of their stance. But I think given the physical tools, just having that level of competition in practice every single day, is going to let these coaches hyper refine, all the physical tools they like, if that makes sense. So, you like the arm length, just, and how, as long as the feet keep moving, which is a problem for him. But, you like the way he sets, at least that seemed to be the consensus. You kind of alluded to, there's pad level, and even once engaged in the feet stop or they stomp, they're just not very quick. But that can be refined because you're lined up against Robert Quinn. So either, what I mean? Everything's going to happen a little bit faster. So I think that offers a good opportunity for these coaches to refine the physical talents, gifts, upside, however you want to phrase that. Throw them on the Autobahn. Everything's moving really quickly, and then kind of refine it from there.
Yeah, I mean, you if you're a good competitor in anything, you dominate a certain level of competition, and then you get that next level of competition. You either rise to it and play hard every single play. There's no plays off. There's no 2 seconds off. There's nothing. You go hard every day. You put every single effort into it, and we'll see if that's going to be the case for these guys. He only played one game, I think, against like Arizona State, where he did not show out well from all accounts. But we'll see. Do you think his best position is outside of tackle, or do you think he's more could be more successful inside a guard, or how does that look?
I think it's worth, given his physical upside, to leave him as a developmental tackle, especially with the rest of the draft class. You've got 3 other interior guys, in all likelihood. So if I'm looking at it from, Ryan Poles, Getsy, whoever else, their perspective, and looking at, okay, we've got these 4 guys. They're all day 3 guys. And kind of who fits where both this year and long term. He stands out as the obvious developmental tackle to me. Again, given the physical upside, I'm not sure any of the, for being realistic, I'm not sure any of the other guys really, even in a best case scenario, have that kind of starting tackle, upside, albeit it's a long shot. But, so yes, I would assume he gets reps at tackle. He's probably somewhere between the practice squad and, like a depth piece that wouldn't be on the 53, unless there's an injury. And, and that's another point too. We have 2 second-year tackles, obviously, as much as I like Jenkins. He did have a back issue last year. You hope, and for all evidence says that that's in the past, but I'm still keeping, an extra developmental depth tackle like him around on the practice squad, or, bumping in and out of the 53-man lineup.
But before we move on to the next lineman, I just want to circle back to what you just touched on with the 2 second-year tackles that we have. Obviously, Jenkins, we kind of have all talked a lot about him. But how confident are you in Larry Borum playing one of those tackles?
Yes, I don't really know what happened, like in terms of public opinion, to Larry Borum for a rookie being thrown in there. Again, I don't think the plan for Larry Borum to ever play as much as he did as a rookie. I think he really overachieved and exceeded anybody's expectations. But I don't know why all of a sudden, in the minds of, it seems like a lot of Bears fans, Larry Borum's no good, or, there's no upside there. I think, so I would say cautiously optimistic. I thought he showed enough last year, again, given a full NFL offseason, weight room, nutrition, everything, the full cycle, to be cautiously optimistic that he would, be able to give you a baseline, baseline average, I think is a very achievable expectation for him this year. Now, again, though, given, the precious cargo that's going to be standing behind him, I've used the phrase, and it usually gets me killed on Twitter, but here we go again. They don't have a proven quality starter up front. They are 0 out of 5 in that department. So as much as I like Jenkins and Borum, I'm going to operate with it. If it were me, I would operate with a trust but verify. And I think that's what drafting 4 offensive linemen, even if it's in day 3, does.
Good
I
call.
have one counter argument to your Larry Borum theory. I think Larry Borum is going to be on track to start last year if he didn't suffer that concussion. Because I remember at the beginning of training camp, he was getting a lot of first-team reps, and then he got that concussion, and he was sidelined for a few weeks, and then they signed Jason Peters like maybe 2 weeks before the season started. But they definitely signed Peters after the concussion. I think Borum got a concussion like hitting a pad or something stupid.
Yeah, he did. No, absolutely. And I'm glad you said that. I think so too. I mean, I think the expectation once he got into camp went through the ceiling.
Oh yeah.
I think when they drafted him, you definitely weren't thinking, oh man, we got our left and right tackle. I think he showed
right.
And then, the whole Jenkins thing was unfortunate, but no, I think you're absolutely right. I think had he stayed healthy, they were fine with, okay, we lost Jenkins, but we've got a guy that maybe we didn't expect to have this early.
Right.
But yeah, then he got hurt too, and we were pulling a 40-year-old off a fishing boat.
I mean, for what he was asked to do, Peters really wasn't like that bad.
I was going to say, it was pretty good.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean that you want to talk about good fortune. It's pulling a 40-year-old off a fishing boat, and not only getting good health but good play out of him. It's just pretty.
Yeah. And he's
The
one
funny
of the
thing was
best
how
ever
they
to do it, though.
How they tried to use him, trying to get him out on some bubble screens. Like, dude's 39 years old and 340 pounds, and you're trying to get him out to bubble screen for Mooney. Like, bro, just no.
Well, that's Matt Nagy. Again, see, like we were talking about earlier, when literally nothing else works. I mean, when your day one concepts routinely lose 3 yards, then yeah, you have to. I'm surprised Nagy didn't try to throw him the ball.
He's a big dude. That might he played tight end.
Yeah,
he played tight. I mean, that would have been a better plan. Look, Michael, you should go coach.
I'm telling you, Nagy in 4 years couldn't find any. He couldn't find any real concept inside the 5 doors. So yeah, why not throw him the ball like we did so well one time?
Well, we talked about it with Michael Jones and just how conceptually speaking it might help the offense look a lot smoother for Justin Fields. Do you think the concepts and the adjustments to the offense, offensive philosophy, will reap a lot of benefits for the offensive line as well?
Well, and that's an awesome point. I'm really glad you brought that up. Yeah, so I mean, we go back to the Browns game, right? And okay, that looks ridiculous on its face, or a net negative passing yards because of the amount of sacks. And then you go back and break it down, and they were in scat, meaning 5-man protection, like 65%. I don't remember the exact number, but I do remember it was over 60%. That's absurd. Like, okay, and even if that's your game plan, which is brain dead, but even if that's your game plan going in, maybe after sack number 5, we gotta maybe get on the headset, the whiteboard. I don't know if they got those Surface tab, something, and go, hey, that's sack number 5 in the first quarter. So let's find something out. But I mean, that was the Matt Nagy era. So yes, to answer your question, absolutely. I don't believe that there's another offensive coordinator, offensive head coach in the NFL that would help those guys less, if that makes sense. Be it every predictable dropbacks, 5-man protection over and over. He talked about it. He was very open with the fact that he thought he needed 5 guys for his concepts to work. You see guys though that fall into that trap. Like, I need this 5th guy to influence this. It looks great on a whiteboard. Meanwhile, your quarterback's pulling turf out of his helmet. For the 6th time, the 3rd
in his first start ever.
Yep, and what's he doing? He's looking right at the Denny's menu, right? Because he's got to find that next concept. This one's definitely gonna work, assuming your quarterback's arm still throw the ball.
Oh my god,
That's hilarious.
brutal.
That's hilarious.
Just absolutely brutal.
The Denny's menu is so fitting. It literally did look like a Denny's menu. That's hilarious.
Waffle House for you Southerners out there.
Before we go to the next lineman we drafted, I just wanted to Braxton Jones. I think Michael, you hit on it. I mean, like the one thing you can't really coach. Obviously, we talked about coaching and how much it can help you. Braxton Jones has the ideal length and size to play left tackle, and that's just it's something you can't teach. So it's like if you can even fix some of his issues, yes, he could probably definitely be a swing tackle, and that's probably why people had him kind of ranked so high, just because he has those developmental physical gifts, and the rest you can work on. But just from me watching him, there's a lot to correct. He plays very high. He doesn't use his hands well, and I don't know, but he's very athletic, and I think his pass sets are really smooth looking. So,
Oh,
see what
how's-
we got out of the kid.
But how's his attitude? Like when he gets a hold of
Yeah,
somebody, is he trying to bury him, or is he just like
He
Charles
is, but
Leno and soft?
He tries to bury him, but he plays so high sometimes that his legs stop moving, and he just like for a guy that big, you want to see him get extension, but defenders get into his chest, and it's like when I was getting so mad watching the game, I watch him play. 'Cause it's like, dude, you have 3-foot long arms, you have shovels for arms, and you're letting defenders get into your chest and push you backwards. Like if you get a little bit lower and get some extension on him, which the few times he did, he took the defender 5, 6, 7 yards down the field. And
maybe Gordon can teach him some like dance moves and get those hips a little more flexible, and he can get some bend.
the other thing I noticed is that Southern Utah is a terrible football program.
Didn't he turn down? Like I can't remember what I read about him. Like I thought he either didn't get any like D1 offers, or like he turned down somewhere to stay local. Like was he a Utah kid that stayed local, or was he just not even like I can't remember what like because Brugler's Beast has everything. You know, it'll have like their 3-star O lineman coming out of high school. I think he's either been just a low grade prospect the whole time, or he stayed home to stay at Southern Utah. I can't remember.
His high school and home is in Murray, Utah.
Well, there's your answer. That was
Right.
it. You know, he's actually a Pro Bowl left tackle that just was hiding at Southern Utah.
I think they won 6 games or something like that. Brugler said it was something ridiculous. Like they won like no games, but he was another guy. I think he was like a 2-time captain there. So Bears definitely have a type of guy
he's a leader. Yeah, he's a leader
for sure.
type, so we'll see.
But the next guy we could talk about is Zach Thomas, not the potential Hall of Fame Zach Thomas. How is he not in the Hall of Fame, by the way? Dolphins Zach Thomas.
Brian Urlacher.
His numbers are pretty damn good, though.
Because he didn't allow his cell phone to be used in a crime. Anyway, Zach Thomas, potential Hall of Fame right guard. Let's go, Lucas. What you got?
So what's cool is Zach Thomas and Braxton Jones both played left tackle versus San Jose State. So you can find both games on YouTube if you just type in San Diego State versus San Jose State offense, and then do the same for Southern Utah versus San Jose. So you can literally compare side by side, like the same players they were playing. And I can say that I was way more impressed with what I came away with seeing Zach Thomas versus them than Braxton Jones. Zach Thomas he was graded by PFF, I think, is the highest graded run blocker in college football last year. And I don't really like PFF grades, but you can definitely see he is a beast in the run game on film. He destroys linemen on his down blocks. He always gets to the second level, and he's always taking 2 to 3 guys out at a time. It's actually insane if you sit down and watch some of his tape. Michael, I don't know if you got a chance to watch any of him, but what did you come away with here on Zach Thomas?
Yeah, I came up with a lot of really similar things to you, really. And so I think Zach Thomas is, and again, kind of why I landed on the alignment that I thought I did, kind of who plays where, at least for this year, who develops where, is I think you slide him over to guard and you minimize a lot of what maybe pushed him to the third round, while you're maximizing all the things that he does really well. Because yeah, I mean, like you said, he's and evidently, yeah, I don't want to say, I won't say great, but a very good run blocker at minimum. At least he wasn't. He fits into. He's got the feet to fit into the zone scheme, and the big thing too. So that was the first thing that I actually wrote down right here with him is that his ability to get to the second level, and not just like people say it's kind of a misconception. Oh, he got to the second level. Like when they're in a 3-man front and they go, off linebacker, like. I mean, okay, great. I mean, that is great. Okay, great. You didn't let that linebacker get across. But he works through alignment to the second level, which is a feature of this zone scheme. Like, there's no such thing as when you're running a zone scheme, there's no such thing under a base front, where we don't have open gaps or, anything weird like that. But assuming we're playing a base front, you don't have linemen that just go run up to the second level. Like that's not a thing. You work through that gap player in level 1. So, the 3 technique, for example, it's a combo block. So that's how you get that leverage of the backside player, ends up blocking 1 gap to the play side is he's going to help. Right. So, if I'm the right guard and there's a guy standing between me and the tackle, I mean, that guard is going to use his hands, his feet to help that tackle, kind of push that guy back, stand him up, give him a good angle, let that tackle, get underneath, and he's going to go right through that guy, work through him to a linebacker. The guys that can do that, invaluable, make this system work, and I think he does that really, really well. So other than that, completely agree. I just thought that that kind of stood out to me, as well, that he does that really well, at least he did in college. And there were, I think the negatives on him were pretty
his
accurate.
pass blocking.
Yeah, his pass in general. But you move. That's why I think you move him inside, right? You get all of the valuables. Right. I didn't think his feet were, I didn't think mechanically he was very bad pass blocker. I mean, he got in trouble with his sets quite a bit. He would underset. He would do it all: underset, overset. It looked like like a hitter that sees the same tunnel and is always 1 pitch behind the pitcher. But you move inside and that's completely fine.
And also, I think a lot of that is a product of his scheme. So San Diego State was some context here is they're a very zone heavy offense and they would run the ball all the time. So like they weren't really asked to pass set that much. Right. They would just run the crap out of the ball. But just watching him versus Braxton Jones, that's where I see Braxton Jones' potential as a left tackle. Was that he was always set up in a good position in his pass block. Like his first 2 or 3 kick steps to get set up and engage a defender were good. But then it's when he was actually engaged where he had issues where Zach Thomas would have issues actually getting set up into his pass protection and defenders would beat him off kind of their first move. So kind of 2 differences there, but I totally agree. Inside at guard is probably a good assessment for him. And I think maybe there's some untapped potential there in pass protection when he's asked to do it more and with some better coaching at it. So I would say he's probably my favorite lineman out of the group, to be honest with you. And the fact that he can play both tackle positions in a pinch probably is a plus for his ability to possibly make this roster and dress on game days.
Oh, yeah. I think one way or the other, he probably dresses on game for that reason alone. If he's not starting, he gives you a backup at 4 spots, right. Primarily 2 and 2 more if we do the offensive line health that we did beginning of last year. So, completely agree. And yeah, you nailed it with the way you explained setting. I should have definitely slowed down, but that's exactly why, I had the same evaluation was you move him inside where that matters a little bit less. And you just do what he does really well. It's shoot his hands into some, and work his feet once engaged, then absolutely right.
Awesome. Looking forward to seeing what happens with Zach Thomas if they do move him inside the guard. Which did we hear that he was lining up at guard in rookie minicamps already, or I can't recall.
Think so.
I think I heard that. I think I heard it on CHGO actually.
Yeah, I think that's where I heard it.
But also, it seemed like, I mean, it would make sense that everybody was kind of playing everywhere. That would make sense.
Can he be a candidate that we can fire Sam Mustipher with? Because whoever, I don't care. Just someone step up and fire that guy.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Sam Mustipher makes it through. Makes it through. I mean, what's the first cut down to 70? Isn't it? I'm not sure.
Yeah. He might, though. It depends on how they view Kramer, in my opinion, which you could dive into. But Mustipher at least gives you the ability to play guard, where Kramer is a center only. And if he can't play guard, who knows if they want him to even dress just as a backup center. I mean, that's kind of – it could be a make or break point for Kramer, to be honest with you. I mean, I'll let you dive into that. You probably know about it more than me, but I don't think Kramer's ever moved from center. So
no, I mean, I'm sure, but everybody does pre-college. Kramer's actually probably my favorite offensive lineman they drafted. And it's really, really close. There was a lot that I liked about Kramer. I did a video thread. I won't rehash that entire thing here. People can. I think I tagged all of you guys in it. So
Michael Gus 57 on Twitter for that video thread.
Yeah,
go look at that.
Kind of the highlights that I really liked about Kramer. I think that I think he's a great fit in this scheme. The zone blocking, the run blocking is something that he did really well. Really liked the way he used his hands. Just really good fundamentally, getting the hands inside, constantly replacing the hands. Really good use to get over one gap. Like, you need a good zone blocker to do. Once engaged, I thought his feet were really good. I mean, you see, and we could, get new examples here later, but you see a lot of really good reps, I guess you would say, where he gets one gap to the play side, uses those hands, uses those feet. Going to be valuable in this system. Now, for whatever reason, though, the negatives that I had on him was he ends up on the ground a ton. And I mean a lot. Mm-hmm. And some of it, so I actually went back and I'm like, why is this a thing, right? Why does this keep happening? Because once engaged, I think his feet are really good. There are lots of really good reps. In the open space, before he gets engaged, when he's, works through, looks great, ends up on the ground a lot of lunging, at linebackers. So that's definitely something to clean up. And he got rolled up. I don't know what was going on in Illinois, but I don't know how the guy made it through the year. Just seriously, you're ever bored, put it in YouTube. Illinois offense versus, it'll come up. I don't know what it was, man, but those guards rolled him up like once a series. Which I mean, that's anyone that's done anything athletically, but especially played in that environment, right, where that makes the hair stand up.
It brings me back.
Yes, someone engaged, that guard rolls into, because you expect it from the guy in front of you, but when your buddy, rolls you up, that's some nasty injury potential. But
that was my high school coach's biggest pet peeve. If you were on the ground, man, oh my God, dude, he would lose his mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but yeah, definitely, on the ground a lot. So, and there were, again, all of these are day 3 guys. So any of the negatives that we have are not to say that they're no good, they'll never be good. But if these things didn't show up, they wouldn't be available in day 3, right?
Right.
If Kramer was never on the ground and he was, all of these great things were constantly on display, well, his name would be Tyler Linderbaum, and we would be trying to will it into the universe that we could draft him in the second round, not day 3. But overall, I'm pretty high on him. And I think a lot of it, like you said, kind of comes down to 2 things. Number one, how does Luke – I feel like they really like Patrick at center for all of the reasons before the ball is snapped, at least, that he can make the line calls. Because, I mean, for anyone that doesn't know, typically, and it is a little bit, there's exceptions, outliers, but the center is going to be making the line calls. So, if we're in a certain pass protection, the center is going to be the one that kind of, identifies, hey, if these two, basically, if these two blitz, this is the free runner. We're all going to move to the left. We're all going to move to the right. If they move right before the snap, that's the center is going to kind of be the one making that quick adjustment. I wonder how Getsy feels about having a rookie do it. But with that being said, it is a brand new offense. Yes. I mean, Patrick played with him in Green Bay, but, this isn't – Getsy's going to have his own – he's going to have his own verbiage, his own rules, his own twists, his own flavor to, a big macro scheme. So I wonder, being the first year, I think it's more likely that he would be open to having a rookie, playing center, because everyone's kind of starting from square one. But I could understand, wanting Patrick there to kind of be making those calls.
Well, let me ask you this: if you were to kick Patrick over to guard, right, and you had if you had Whitehair and Patrick at guard, and Kramer at center, do you think the fact that he has two veterans next to him who also played center to help make those line calls could make a difference, right off the bat for him?
Oh yeah, I think it absolutely would. And again, last time I'll ever use a Matt Nagy term, so you're getting into 202 there, which just makes you cringe. Which means nothing works is what that means. But yeah, and that's pretty common. I mean, even when James Daniels played center briefly before they realized that he quite literally was too quiet for the tackles to hear him. There was a lot of reports of Whitehair doing that. So given the environment, if Kramer turns out, hey, we get to camp, hey, this is far and away our best lineman, of the four, this is our most viable starter. I think you could really get away with it, pretty easily. For that reason too, that you've got, a big longtime starter in Whitehair, league veteran, and Patrick, who's, also been pushed into some starting roles, in Green Bay, but is going to be familiar in some sense with Getsy, the offense, probably the terminology, all that good stuff.
Yeah, question I had was, I know a lot of Packers fans said that a lot of Packers fans said that Patrick was a better guard than center.
Why are we listening to anything those fools have to say?
They win a lot. I don't know. Just a thought. They have a good offensive line. Anyway, so I think what you're saying is probably takes precedence, right? Those offensive line calls are going to be more important to the overall success of the offense rather than where Lucas Patrick best fits. And if that means Doug Kramer, rides the pine for a year before or maybe half the year before he, is able to make the calls, or, maybe somebody else is making the calls or whatever, then I'm just curious what you think about Patrick at center versus guard. Have you watched enough of him to say what he's better at?
I think it's pretty similar. I have watched quite a bit of them. I think the difference is negligible. And I don't think that, so if we're developing some long-term starters, definitely tackle spots. I think they're really onto something long-term. Candidly, I don't think Lucas Patrick should factor in, he should factor into that long-term plan. So that's to say, if Kramer is looking like he could be a starting center, then do not let Lucas Patrick get in his way. Move him over to guard. And same thing for any one of the other guys at guard. If you get to camp and you're like, hey, this, for example, hey, this is, this looks like a starting caliber right guard. Move him to center. Keep him at center. I don't think that he should, because, he's probably not long term, like hopefully some of these guys are, because I think you pretty much know what you're going to get with Patrick. It is guard center. He's kind of shown that he can plug him either spot and he'll get it done. So kind of like we talked about last time I was here, find your best five, put them there.
Mm-hmm.
Leave them. I mean,
Mhm.
the Nagy thing where sometimes he's a guard unless he's maybe we'll throw him a pass, and now because we fed him to Myles Garrett 1-on-1, 7 consecutive plays.
Well, the Bears were not done drafting offensive linemen in the draft. They went on to the 7th round and drafted Tyrant Carter. Tyrant Carter out of Southern, 6'3", 311-pounder, who he played. What he played? He played a lot of tackle at Southern, but he's probably one of those guys. We heard it a lot in the draft that this guy might be a candidate to move inside to guard. You go ahead and look at OurLads.com, who kind of does a working depth chart, and they've already got him slotted in as a third string left guard. So our man Michael Gus, what do you see out of Carter when you put on the tape from the man? What is Southern HBCU?
Yeah, I mean, probably exactly that. Probably a long-term developmental guard that maybe could give you like some emergency tackle depth, but probably a practice squad guy for now. Practice squad, kind of float in and out of between that and someone who's just a depth development guy who's probably not going to be on the 53. He flashes, and a lot of people on Twitter have kind of, provided the clips, pointed that out. There's some really nice flashes physically. But, just got a lot of refining to do, I think. Again, another guy that's going to really benefit from an NFL cycle, or two. Just really getting in the weight room, nutrition, NFL coaching, speed, all of that good stuff. Not someone who I think is necessarily going to challenge for, a starting spot this year. But someone that, has enough physically, enough flashes on tape to like about just developing long term.
Well, sounds awesome. I want to just pin you down real quick as we're in May, many months away from the season. But yeah, after the Bears draft and we just had rookie minicamp. What do you predict now? We had you on prior to the draft and kind of asked you who you thought the best 5 would be. If it's Michael Gus's offensive line on May the 10th, what do you think the best 5 will end up being when we are the Detroit Lions?
So I would say left to right, I would have right now Borum, Whitehair, Kramer, Patrick, Jenkins. That would be that would be where I would go right now.
Awesome.
I do want to the Bears did bring in one UDFA who seemed like a hot name, Gene DeLance out of Florida. I don't really know if we discussed him too much last podcast, but another guy with prototypical length for a tackle. He has some really good tape at Florida, and people seem to be really high on this guy. So it's just a name to keep an eye on as we go through camp. Maybe he beats out one of these 4 linemen they drafted. Who knows? But another guy with tree trunks for arms. His arm length is 36 4/8. So this guy's pushing 37-inch arms.
4/8? That's an interesting.
Yeah, I don't know why they have it listed at that. So 36 and a half. Yeah, I think they just list all their on this website. I think they just list everything in eighths. So, but Gene DeLance is another name to keep your eye on as a possible another lineman option that they brought in.
Yeah, to me, I mean, I think they're definitely casting a wide net, trying to find some developmental tackles that have the physicals, and obviously, it's we haven't even gotten to our first camp yet, so it's I'm sure it's rose-colored glasses up there, and they think they got the guys and they got the system to develop these guys. So,
yeah, I mean, I don't like to be that guy, but I kind of feel like this is what Poles and Cunningham are kind of brought here to do. So I want to see at least one of these dudes eventually turn into a possible starter for the Bears. That would be really nice and kind of maybe my expectations too high. I mean, I know they're day 3 picks, but just want for one of these guys to pan out. It's kind of my expectation that I think, I'm expecting Poles to be able to identify at least one of these guys to be a player for us up front.
Yeah, it's not yesterday 3 guys, but you got 4 of them. So
yeah,
you would hope, right, with those evaluations and hopefully an environment to develop in, because that's often overlooked. But yeah, I mean, 25% would not be an unfair ask. That's for sure.
Right. And especially if you can get a Charles Leno level play out of one of these guys, I would probably consider that a win.
Michael, what have you been hearing? I'll ask you about a veteran that's been kicked around. What have you been hearing about adding Eric Fisher into this room with Ryan Poles' connection back to Kansas City?
He's okay with not starting, right, barring injury or just poor play. So I mean, that's a hypothetical, but I think that's the hang up that they're going to run into, because best case scenario, not even best case scenario, in a deal scenario or semi-positive scenario, the difference in play between him and the 2 second-year tackles you have wouldn't be enough to where you would take those reps away from him. So I think that could be I think that probably has been a hang up, in these negotiations, is unless you're going to get a Armstead, for example, and if healthy, all that good stuff, you're going to get someone that, okay, there's your left tackle, no questions asked. He's a top 10, top half guy easily, no way around it. Then I'm not sure that, you're guaranteeing an Eric Fisher, hey, I guarantee you, you're going to be the left tackle. What if Borum's better? Or what if Borum's similar? And I mean, you really want to take those reps away from him?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, at this point, I again, trust but verify. I think, if you can find guys that make sense and are okay with that role, being a hedge against injury and or just poor play from the tackles, sure, bring them in. But, I'm not guaranteeing an Eric Fisher starting job.
Laurent Tardif. That's my guy.
I'm not
grabbing him, play guard.
Not guaranteeing him a starting job either. But, but hey, if they want to come in and compete, then I'm all for it, because this team needs offensive help. There's no way around that. For sure.
Well, guys, do we have any more offensive line questions for Michael Gus before I turn us to a different topic? Or I don't want to jump the gun here.
No, I think the best question was who are the ideal starting 5, and I think that that's a good foundation, a good start. One of these guys pans out or is able to fill a hole this year or even excel this year would be, fantastic for this team. And to have depth on this team that's not Dakota Dozier or everybody else's leftover trash, that is homegrown and, can plug a hole or potentially, be a starter down the line. Lucas Patrick was brought in as a free agent. If one of these guys can take his spot in a couple years or a year, then so be it. Rookie contracts are great, especially third day rookie contracts. So, if we can get this offensive line assembled based off of, 2 out of these 4 succeeding, or maybe 3 out of these 4 in 2 to 3 years, that would be phenomenal. And hopefully Poles and Cunningham do have the eye for the guys that are going to, project as those pieces.
Well, Michael, I really appreciate you hanging out with us. You're welcome to continue if you want to hang out and chop it up with the rest of our Bears talk. Absolutely, we'd love to continue. But I want to talk about Tariq Cohen a little bit. Tariq Cohen put out a rather lengthy article in the Players Tribune today, detailing a lot of the struggles that he's kind of been carrying during his time in the NFL, and really how it relates back to all the way back to his time in high school. really just a great picture, a brutal picture, an ugly picture into Tariq Cohen's personal life. I gotta applaud him for the courage that it took to put that pen to paper, in my opinion, and kind of show the world what his family life has been looking like. If you missed the article in the Players Tribune, he details and discusses his relationship with his brothers, and how their turmoil off the field and really his mother's struggle as a single mother affected him in his professional career, in his career as a football player, both on and off the field. And I as a Bears fan and as someone who has been critical of Tariq Cohen at times in the past, I think it was a really refreshing and kind of eye-opening look at just what these players go through off the field. I think oftentimes we kind of see them as just Madden players, plug them in, and they're just gonna play according to their Madden rating, and they're not real. So I know sometimes I'm a little guilty of not seeing the human under the helmet. Just give you a chance, Michael, if you haven't read the article, or if you did read the article, what's your opinion of Tariq Cohen and just kind of where he's at with his ACL recovery? I know that he's not on a team at the moment, but at the end of the article, he declares that he's as healthy as he's ever been, and he's ready to kind of revamp his NFL career. Guys, just I know Chris and Luke, y'all read it today. We shared it in our chat. Just what did you make of just Tariq Cohen's story, just all the adversity that he's faced?
Yeah, it was tough to read, for all the reasons that you said. All of that on top of, not just the injury, but, not just the fact of, having your knee injured in general, but just the threat that poses to his career, frankly. That's tough. And it does make you take a step back and you go, man, that knee injury, a career-threatening knee injury, almost doesn't seem, it minimizes it. You know what I mean? You're like, that's not even priority A or B right now for him. Which is tough because, I think we've, most of us have been critical of, Tariq Cohen at some point, especially, at the big extended, quote unquote knee recovery. But, that was something that I kept saying really second half of last year, but even before, when it got apparent where you're like, oh man, something isn't right here. You assume it's, hey, something, the knee's not rehabbing the way it should. But to see that wasn't even, priority A or B, or that wasn't even half of it, it makes you take a step back. And Tariq Cohen, interacting on social media, just getting a glimpse while he was here of Tariq Cohen, the person, before that article, it was really, really easy to be like, man, I hope he gets on, sticks, has a good year or two at minimum. I hope he, hope he has a Darren Sproles second half, where he can bounce around, provide value. But after you read that, man, that's one of the guys that, even after leaving the Bears, that at least I'm going to follow and really, really pull for. Also, if there's with all the negative and tragedy in there, hopefully he can get away from Matt Nagy, and I mean this seriously, and have a second half to his career, and hopefully, I really hope that for him. So.
Yeah, tragedy is definitely a word I would use. Timing and a lot of these decisions that he talks about, three or big decisions that he made as a very young man, as an 18-year-old, whether or not to stay in high school, finish out his career at the high school he was at, to keep his recruitment going. Ended up at A&T, did really well, ended up getting drafted, but meanwhile his family's, kind of struggling without him, loses, multiple siblings. His mom struggles to just keep her head above water, and it's just like, to watch him still be kind of the fun personality he was kind of amazing that he could, separate the two. And then when he talks about getting 3 phone calls essentially with the loss of his brothers and whatnot, and just being and what was going on in his NFL life, what he had to do. And honestly, you look at it like, from a fan's perspective and a money's perspective, you say like, wow, gave that guy a lot of money, for being kind of a gadget player. I hope this works out, whatnot. Then he gets hurt. And from a fan's perspective, it's really rough. But like you said, Michael, you take a step back and examine the human element of it, and you are kind of happy he got that money for his family and his mom to, kind of right that family's ship, as it were. So if you haven't had a chance to read the article, just tweeted it out from the BIM Pod account. Please go, give it a read and get to know Tariq Cohen a little bit better in his backstory and letter from his future self to his 18-year-old self. And it's a good story.
Yeah, definitely. I think, you guys kind of hit it on the head, and the end of the story kind of, after all that, sadness, it kind of made me smile that he is putting money away and buying a house for his brother's siblings, and kind of being that uncle and role model for those kids that they'll, they never had. So, he's setting up, the future generations for their life. And, that did, was a nice little ending there to that really tragic story. And, he'll probably be a fantastic role model for them. So he can give them a better life than he had growing up. But at the end of the day, I think, I think Ryan Pace did him a solid too by keeping him around. I think a lot of people were asking, Tariq Cohen's never coming back. Why doesn't Ryan Pace cut him and do all this? Well, I think we kind of have an answer for that now. And like we said, I'm kind of, I'm happy that he has that money and can do what he needs with it for his family. So definitely a must read article, though. Kind of peels back the curtain from what a lot of these players, football is their escape and a way to make a better future. But, it's always not that easy to just separate yourself from your past life, if you will, because it is your family and it's where you're from. So.
Just a lot of tough scenarios in that article, and I think collectively as a podcast, our hearts are in his corner for a great positive, revamping of his career. Hopefully, exactly like Michael said, he can go find an offensive coordinator who will use him appropriately. Maybe he can go down to Atlanta and help out Cordell Patterson. Then Ryan Pace likes to collect his island of misfit toys. You'll have Ryan Pace and Phil Emery collecting all the old Bears, and maybe that would help him out with Marcus Mariota and Arthur Smith and stuff. So, are there any other Bears topics tonight that I've missed on this evening? Or Chris, I know you're probably up on everything. I'm just don't want to leave anything on the cutting room floor before we wrap up.
Kyler Gordon jumped out of the building at Bears minicamp, and it's a huge deal. Apparently, Cole Kmet's going to be a big piece of the offense per Luke Getsy. He's excited to use him. So I look forward to seeing how Getsy deploys deploys Cole Kmet next year. It'll be interesting, with tight ends that they have and fullback and zone scheme and everything, where Cole Kmet kind of fits in as that.
Do we believe that?
Absolutely. Cole Kmet's the Jesus, bro. He went.
I know you're a Notre Dame guy. Do we really believe that?
Yeah, man, he's solid.
Yeah, I mean, 60 catches, 600 yards with the qualifier of Matt Nagy. So yeah, I mean, I think it's evident right now, and that he is a lock to, for the second year in a row, be year number 2 in all targets, receptions, and yards.
I was going to say, with the kind of lack of depth of addressing receiver, really, maybe that is really actually their plan, is to get Kmet way more involved in the offense to kind of pick up the slack of not having, that true number 1 receiver, perhaps. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm excited for
Cole
this
Kmet,
season and
our
to see
George
this
Kittle.
offense. We'll see.
Kyle Rudolph.
Yeah,
Gosh.
Jesper Horsted is George Kittle, bro, with the long hair and the looking like a hillbilly kind of.
I don't think he can block though.
Doesn't need to. That's what Cole Kmet and what's old boy
Kittle
Brian
blocks.
Griffin are for.
yeah,
Kittle blocks.
great block. Yeah, if we could just
No, I'm saying Horsted doesn't need to.
Oh.
Never mind.
Well, then he's not Kittle.
Fuck up, come on, man.
Horsted is the new Jimmy Graham.
Oh my god,
He's not big enough to be Jimmy Graham. He's like what's that dude's name? Trey. What's his name? Help me out.
Trey McBride.
No, what's old boy's name that came from that went to the Colts and was from Philadelphia? That was Trey Burton. Thank you. I was gonna say Trey Lance wouldn't get out of my head, and I knew that was wrong.
We don't want anybody to be the next Trey Bird.
No,
dude, that guy was talented after he left us. He did
I
well
don't
in
care. Oh my
Indianapolis.
gosh.
see that was everybody as it pertains to Matt Nagy. They were really useful before and after. It just in between, what's the common factor there?
Trubisky's taking the Steelers to the playoffs this year, and everybody's going to know.
He won't even start, dude. Pickett's gonna fake.
3 weeks he will.
Pickett's gonna fake slide him right out of that job, bro.
He'll start for 3 weeks.
Is that including preseason? You are right. He will start the first 3 weeks of preseason.
Michael,
right.
It's been a lot of fun having you tonight, and we really appreciate you joining us on the Believe in Monsters podcast. Make sure, guys, if you're listening, to go follow Michael at Michael Gus 57. You can find that Kramer tweet thread that he's put out, and several others evaluations of different offensive linemen and just kind of the progression of the Chicago Bears. Yes, Chris.
So we all know Michael's a big fan of Olin Kreutz. What is your what's your take on that situation with the CHGO Adam Hogue WWE choke?
Well, that sucks. That's pretty. that was my reaction. I think my reaction was, you see it pop up, you're like, oh no, come on, man. Yeah, no, that sucks. I mean, seriously, yes, my all-time favorite player. Which I thought was really, really cool to, when he was done playing, get to have him in the media. I also really appreciate how he's one of the rare media guys around the Bears that does not walk the PR line, doesn't kind of follow that. But yeah, man, you can't do that. And when you do that, your media career is probably done. So, no, that's
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, and it's inexcusable. I mean, you can't. I know that he justified it with a meme, but end of the day, you can't.
Especially Hogue, man.
Hogue, bro.
You know what? Yeah. So, but anyone who's listened, and not even to CHGO, anyone's listened to the hits that they did before that, I can't say I'm surprised. I gotta say, I can't say. As soon as the story came out, I think I tweeted out, I'm like, oh, that was 100% Hogue. And everyone's like, no, it was probably a cameraman. I'm like, no, I think you heard the restraint in his voice a couple times, I think, from, strangling Hogue. But yeah, their personality. Did anyone else pick up on that? Their personalities, man, there was some
awkward tension there.
Yeah.
Hogue's a smart ass too.
What's that?
Hogue's a smart ass. I mean,
yeah. Well, it's a two-way street. I mean, you can't choke someone because you don't like what they said. Right. But I know the takes I've seen, are like, why would he do this? That tension went both ways. I mean, I don't know. This could be a whole other podcast, but I've seen that dynamic play out before. You had the ex-professional player that didn't care what the media guys thought, and made jokes about how he was a special teams high school coach after, I think he would ask him once a week how long he played, knowing what the answer was. And then you had the professional media guy like, what are we doing here with this with this ex lineman in my professional media setting. So yeah, I can't say I'm surprised that happened. At least you didn't hit him.
Same guy that punched his former teammate and broke his jaw. So.
Right. At least you didn't. At least there weren't any 25-pound weights around Hogue when he made him mad, or else that might have been more serious. Because Kreutz was the guy that allegedly swung I think it was a 25-pound weight at a teammate a long time ago. So
rough stuff. Yeah, unprofessional. Can't do that. So
yep. No.
But yeah, Joe.
Well, Michael, just like the last time you were here, we closed with a fight song. Feel free to join us if you'd like. Bear down, Chicago Bears. Make every play clear the way to victory. Bear down, Chicago Bears. Put up a fight with the might so fearlessly. We'll never forget the way you thrill the nation. With your team formation, bear down, Chicago Bears. And let them know why you're wearing the crown. You're the pride and joy of Illinois, Chicago Bears. Bear down.